Hi you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another Project Life process video. In this video, I'm working through week 52 in 2016. So this is actually the week of Christmas. So there was a ton going on this week and I have an insert, so I apologize if this video is a little bit long. It's definitely a little bit longer of a process for me. So I decided to kind of split this spread up into a couple days. So the first thing that I did, because I had a little bit of time, is I used these messy circles that came from Allie Edwards. It was part of her December daily supplies, but it was not part of the kit. It was separate in the shop, and this actually might be something that is still available. I'm not sure. I haven't checked lately, but I'm definitely a fan of the messy circles, and I wanted to use them in my spread. I felt like, come on, I didn't use enough of them, right? So I wanted to use them in my spread. So the first thing that I did is I'm prepping my paper with some anti-static tool. So that way, when I put on the embossing powder, it's only going to stick to the stamps that have the Versamark ink on it. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, that I wanted to show you, is you can see, and you probably saw the first time that I did that, the stamps did not stamp out really well. And that is not because of the stamp. It's actually, I believe, because of my Versamark ink stamp pad. Now, you guys, I kid you not, that stamp pad I probably bought back in 2003, 2004, when I was really into stamping. I'd go to a bunch of Close to My Heart and Stampin' Up! Parties, and I did a lot of embossing back then. And so I bought that stamp pad back then, and I have never changed that out. I have never re-inked it or anything like that. So that is the original stamp pad, and it has lasted me, well, if you do the math, what is that? Like 13 years or something like that, 12, 13 years. So it's lasted me a really long time. And after I worked on this, I decided, I think it's time to get a new stamp pad. So I'm either just going to go get a new stamp pad or get a re-inker. I think I'm probably just going to get a new stamp pad. I mean, that was definitely worth the money. So I'm very fond of the Versamark ink brand and the brand and their stamp pad. So you can see that I went ahead and stamped all those stamps out. And I put on this gold embossing powder, and then I put the heat to it and it melted it. That's one of my favorite parts when it comes to embossing. Now, this embossing powder that I'm using is a flat gold. It doesn't have any glitter in it at all, and I actually really like that. I think that looks and works really well with the stamps, especially some of the finer stamps. I think it works really well. I did a lot more of the glitter gold for December daily, but I was happy to use this flat gold. I think I will definitely probably use this a lot more when it comes to embossing in gold. I do like the glitter gold embossing powder, but it seemed a little chunky. And like I said, with some of these finer stamps, I thought that it stamped out a lot better just in the flat gold. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the stamps that I thought stamped out the best and the ones that I want to use on my Project Life spread. So I'm just, like I said, doing a little bit of prep work before I actually get started. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started with the actual spread. So I believe I worked on it that night. I can't exactly remember. It was a couple weeks ago that I actually did this, but I think I did the prep work during the day, and then I was able to work on this layout during the evening time. So I'm just going to fiddle around with some of those messy circles. I added one to a photo, and you can see I'll probably go back and forth with that. I've definitely done some other prep work with journaling as well. Some of the journaling cards I had done when I was working on December daily and decided to save it for my Project Life, and some of them, like that this week card, I probably did that day. So the first thing that I'm working on right here is I'm going to make a flip up, and I've actually never done a flip up before. I've seen multiple people doing them. including Ali Edwards. And I've always wanted to try it. And so I decided to go ahead and do it in this spread. So that way I could have more photos. And so I've got my journaling on the back, and it's basically the exact same journaling that I did in December Daily. It was kind of like a countdown. We've been married 20 years. And so it talked about, how many children we've had, how many houses we've lived in, how many dogs we've had, all those kinds of things, just some fun things that we can remember over the time. And then that washi tape came from the December Daily main kit from Ali Edwards. And I think that card, the red stripe card, came from the Paisley Press. So I just went ahead, and so that black like semicircle that's at the bottom where I put the date stamp, that actually came on the card. So I thought that was a great place to add the date. And I just added the date of our anniversary, which was December 19th. And now I'm just putting 20 on the outside to indicate that we have been together for 20 years. So now I'm putting it in the pocket, and I'm realizing, wait a second, I need this to be able to flip up. And so I decide that it needs to go on the other side. So obviously this is not something that I've ever done before, because I had to really think that through. I was like, do I need to cut the pocket? And then I realized I just need to put it on the other side. So anyways, I really like the way that turned out. I actually did not put washi tape on the inside. I probably should do that to keep it secure. But the date was so close to the edge, I didn't know that if that would hinder. So I think that might be something that I'll go back and do. So I'm just moving on to these 3x3 photos, and I don't even know if I actually end up finishing this portion or not. I tend to move back and forth a lot. I think that, I have an idea and I want to implement it, and I don't follow through with it, and I end up moving on to something else. Maybe I'm trying to consider what else I want to do, so sometimes I get distracted, or sometimes I need a minute to think about if that's really what I want to do. So I'm grabbing my messy circles and I'm messing around with them a lot. And I'm trying to decide, how I want things placed or where I want the cards to go. I found that Bah Humbug card. I believe that it was from 2015, Jasmine Jones, I believe. So I'm just looking through more of my cards. And these are actually 6x8 pattern papers that came from those stars. That was Pam Garrison. The one behind it was from 2015, I think, Peppermint Gramberg. So I'm just looking through all of my supplies, and you can see that I've just got all those dishes of all my December Daily kind of thrown in there. And I'm just looking to see, how I want to do my title card, or looking for 3x4 cards that I want to add. So I'm really loving that stars. The one thing I love about December Daily and Christmas is there's so many stars. I'm a fan of stars, and you definitely can use stars whenever, but it was fun the last 4 weeks to be able to just use a lot more stars. So I'm going through my stash, and I'm trying to decide what else I want to add or what other embellishments I want to use. This is really, I think, the last time that I really dip into my December Daily. Maybe week 53, I do a little bit, but really not much. So I'm just trying to look at the last of the supplies that are left and decide what I want to use. So it turns out that I keep coming back to these tickets that came in the kit. And it's funny because the first time I saw these, I didn't think that I would use them, in that I just feel like it's an embellishment that I don't use all the time. I feel like the tickets are really great for clustering embellishments together. And I don't always feel like I'm awesome at that. I feel like I'm just more simple, and I gravitate to the chipboard embellishments or the stamps or the letter stickers. So it was nice to kind of push myself, and I really liked using them in December Daily, and I liked how I use them. I tried to be a little bit more creative because I don't necessarily think in like embellishment clusters. So I like the way I use them, but I'm anticipating using them on this layout. But you'll see in a minute that I actually don't use them on this week, but I will use them on week 53. So you'll see that in a video coming up. So for these 3x3 photos, I do this a lot of times. I stick it onto a 3x4 card and then I write some journaling on the bottom. A lot of time, what I end up doing is just putting a date stamp right on top. And I really like the way that works out. It's plain and simple. There's not a whole bunch of stuff on there, not a lot of embellishments, but I really like the way that it turns out. So I'm just going to go ahead and start adhering some of these embellishments. I just wanted to mention that love and that peace, those words. I made those when I was working on December Daily. They actually used the Mink machine for those, and they actually did not come out really well. They had like a lot of, it's like, my laser printer didn't print awesome. And so it didn't adhere. There was a lot of like black showing through. And so I ended up redoing it and not using those words, but I had those words still. And so I thought, you know what? They don't look that bad. It looks kind of like I did that on purpose, or that's how they're supposed to look. So I decided to go ahead and use those. Definitely, gold was definitely a theme for this spread. So now I'm just doing the same thing that I did at the very beginning, and I used the phrases stamps from Allie Edwards that also came with her December Daily supplies, and it says favorite moment. Actually, I could be totally wrong. That favorite moment may have come from one of her story kits, but at any rate, it definitely, it came from one of her story kits, and offhand, I can't remember exactly which one that was, but it was definitely from Allie Edwards. But I apologize, that might not be something that you're able to get because her story kits are only available for 30 days. But they are so versatile. So if you are interested, definitely check that out on Allie's website. I've really enjoyed getting her subscription. So I just went ahead and added that December that came from the Paisley Press December kit, and then used the date stamp to put dates just right on the card. I'm again just adding more of this messy circles right onto the photo. I actually thought about maybe adding a foam behind it or something like that to make it stand out a little bit. But at the end, I just decided to use regular adhesive. So I'm going through more of my 3x4 cards and trying to decide what I want to put with that bah humbug. I don't necessarily feel like it needs to go with the journaling that was on there. That journaling is all about how we all got sick one by one around Christmas. It was kind of sad, but it worked out fine. I had kids sick on Christmas Eve, the week, I think a few days before Christmas, then on Christmas Eve, then on Christmas Day, then my husband got sick and I got sick. So at some point we were all sick, but we rallied and we definitely made it work. So I'm just trying to decide what else I want to put in that spot right there. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the insert that I'm putting in. So most of the photos from the insert are actually from Christmas. But the first thing that I decided to do is see that little pouch that I was putting December stories on. I decided to add a bunch of the extra photos that I had printed out, but that didn't fit in the spread. So I just put December stories on there, moved it aside, and you'll see that I'll add photos to it in just a minute. The other thing that I'm doing is, of course, I'm grabbing one of those messy circles that came from Allie Edwards' December Daily Kit. I really loved those messy circles. I hope Allie does something like that again in another kit that she has coming up. I don't know. I just really loved it. So I'm going ahead and adding that 'Tis the Season. I think that card says Merry Christmas over and over again. And I did want to add a little bit of foam to pop it up, just to add a little dimension and give it a little bit of texture. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And you'll definitely see that I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. One thing that kind of drove me crazy, and I don't know, hopefully I cut this out a little bit, I can't remember, is the photos were not, some of the photos were not matching up awesome. So I feel like with the 3x4 cards, it's a little bit easier to cut down, but for whatever reason, I didn't cut down the 3x3 photos, the 3x3 photos to the same measurements. And so I ended up having a lot of white space. So I would go through and kind of cut those down. So it's possible that I did edit that out. I can't remember. So now I'm just looking for how to embellish the back of that messy circle. And I think I'm just going to add that messy circle with that red star. I believe that star came from the Allie Edwards kit as well. Like I said, I'm definitely trying to use as many supplies as possible. Sometimes I'm in that headspace where I'm like, no, I have to save it for, next year and use this next year because these are some of my favorite things. And then I decide if these are some of my favorite things, then I need to use them. That's happened so many times in my crafting life where I've saved pattern papers or things for the perfect project, and the perfect project never comes along because I forget and I end up not using it. And now it's sitting in my stash and I don't love it anymore because it's totally out of style. So I would definitely encourage you guys to use the supplies that you have. I know that I'll probably buy Allie's kit next year or some supplies that, some new stuff that I could add to my stash. So I'm really just trying to use as many supplies as possible. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut holes that's in that striped party bag so that I can add my photos to it. So these are all photos that I printed out, that I had printed out and that I didn't use. And it's not just from this week. It's basically during all of December. And I didn't really know what to do with them. I didn't want to throw them away, and I didn't know if I was just gonna where I was gonna stash them. So I thought a really good idea would just be to put it with the spread so that we had those extra photos. So that's what I went ahead and did, and I'm really really grateful that I ended up doing that. I found that photo of my daughter with the hot chocolate, and so I decided to go ahead and use that as well. To be honest, I am not 100% sure if I took that photo during this week. It's possible that I did, but I am not for sure. So I didn't worry about that. I knew that it was at some point in December. So I wasn't too picky about that. Some of those cards that I was looking through were from the Peppermint Granberg kit from 2015 that I had left over. So once again, just trying to use up all of those supplies. So it looks like I am just about done with this kit, with this spread. I'm definitely fixing just a few of those. The last thing that I want to do is add an Avery tab. I really enjoy doing this. I think I've told you this probably every time I do it, is that I really feel like it has a way of just finishing off the spread really well. And those phrases that was the December daily phrases, were so perfect for the Avery tabs. I don't know if Allie designed them for that or not, because those Avery tabs are definitely something that I got from her, definitely an inspiration. So, maybe she designed them perfectly for that. I don't know, but they definitely just worked great. So what I'm doing right now is, this was something that happened that I didn't plan on at all, but it just turns out that the spread the week before and then this spread that I'm working on now, I had 2 3x4 photos that I ended up putting in the same pocket. And like I said, that was something that I really didn't plan on doing. It just kind of happened. And I was really happy that it did, because then it gave me the ability to use my fuse tool and just cut another pocket into it. So you can see that I am fusing that pocket together. So now I have actually 2 3x4 cards instead of, the 3x4 cards kind of flopping around in that pocket. And then it looks like I didn't adhere those gold phrases or those gold words onto the photo. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm just adding a small black star. Those stars actually came from when I was doing some die cuts. It was part of the die cuts. Those were kind of like the negative space. So I decided to just keep those in my bowl and use them when I needed it. So now I'm going to add the other word on to my photo. And then I think I'm pretty much done with this spread. I think I'm just going to look it over once to see if there's anything I'm missing, if there's anything that I want to change. So I think one last thing that I end up doing is I bring over that pouch of photos and I just add washi tape right onto the top just to secure, to make sure that those photos are not going to fall out, and that washi tape is really easy to peel back so I can access those photos if I want. So one last thing that I want to do before I am done with this spread, and I promise you guys I will be done with this spread, is I wanted to add some journaling to that photo of my kids at the movie theater. We went and saw Rogue One, and because this isn't something that I put in our December daily, I definitely wanted to make sure that I had some type of journaling to indicate what movie we had seen and, you know, how much we liked the movie. So I just went ahead and added that little journaling on the bottom. And then you can see that I using the corner rounder, and then I'm just going to go ahead and outline around that label. Anyway, you guys, this is the spread for this week. Thank you so much for being here and watching this entire video. Sorry that it was a little bit longer of a process video. I'm really excited to be getting 2016 done, and especially this week because I always feel like Christmas is just a little bit more intense to work through just because there's so many photos. So I hope you guys were able to get some inspiration from it. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my Project Life process videos, please make sure to subscribe. All right, you guys, we will catch you in the next video. Bye.